Hey, I'm Laura. Just quickly, we here at GRITtv are proud to bring you independently produced content every day. Now it's your chance to help us. GRITtv has been offered a $100,000 challenge grant. Every dollar you give right now between now and June 30th is worth $3 to us. We've only got a few more weeks to meet the match. Will you help? You can donate at our website, GRITtv.org. Meanwhile, enjoy this clip. Well, to start, absolute idiots who flushed $10 million down the toilet. That's reportedly how a senior White House official described organized labor's campaign against Arkansas's Blanche Lincoln, according to Politico. As those who've been following GRITtv well know, organized labor and the pro-public option left threw money and man and woman power behind beating incumbent Lincoln after she voted against the public option and other things. They made it a tight race for sure, but Lincoln came out on top. Now the White House is reportedly angry at labor. After all that Pelosi and Reid have done, how dare they? There's just one problem. On labor's top priority, the Employee Free Choice Act, Blanche Lincoln stood not for, but against, and the White House had her back. Is the White House simply misreading labor's fury? If so, that doesn't bode well for November, when the administration will need all of labor's troops. Next up, Bill Fletcher of the Center for Labor Renewal on the results of Tuesday's primaries. First, a burst of Lincoln's victory speech.
This is about us. This is about who we are as Arkansans and what we want to do and be. And I have heard your message, and let me tell you, I cannot feel any stronger than I feel today as a daughter of the Delta and Arkansas to know that your message is loud and clear, that Washington needs to work for us in Arkansas.
So the message was loud and clear. Was it loud and clear to you, Bill?
I think that the White House has it wrong. I think that these pundits have it wrong. I think it was a tremendous step on the part of organized labor to mount this challenge. And the fact that she came out only a few percentage points higher than her challenger says something very powerful about the fact that labor and its allies tapped into something. They were willing to take risks. And the fact of not winning in this race, the White House is just drawing absolutely the wrong conclusions. Now, if there was a consistent pattern of losing in these challenges, okay. But I think that this was absolutely the right thing to do. And I think that the White House and certainly Bill Clinton made a very, very big mistake in the way that they've been painting labor recently.
One of Blanche Lincoln's approaches has been to paint labor, at least the labor groups she was up against in her primary, as the D.C. infiltrators. Here's a clip where she made that point.
The D.C. unions have put about $10 million in this race in the last 12 weeks. They've also inundated Arkansas with outside workers that they've bussed in to go door to door. And it's really sad that, that we would allow these special interest groups, and certainly that Bill would allow special interest groups to come into our state like this.
So there you have it. I mean, the incumbent in Washington trying to kind of run against Washington labor groups.
Laura, it starts to sound like red baiting. This whole discussion about outsiders starts to remind me of what went on in the civil rights movement when conservative forces were talking about outside agitators. I mean, we've heard all of this before, and it's ridiculous. It's disingenuous. Certainly, if there had been union organizers in Arkansas fighting for her, she wouldn't have blinked an eye. So it's ridiculous, Laura. I think that this is right. I think that the right message was being sent, and we have to continue to send that message. Whether the White House is upset with labor, that's between them and God. The bottom line is that labor needs to do this. It needs to exert its independence. It needs to be pushing these folks to do what needs to be done, as opposed to sitting back and sitting passively, which is what happened during most of 2009.
What do you think about the role of Bill Clinton, who showed up in Arkansas, his home state, of course, to campaign aggressively for Lincoln in the last weeks?
I have to say that I wasn't surprised. See, for labor, what Clinton did was, this was a Sister Souljah moment. You might remember back in '92 when Clinton went before Jesse Jackson's Operation Push conference and used that as an opportunity to chastise Jackson by pointing a finger at Sister Souljah. It was an attempt at humiliating him and putting him in his place. Clinton has done the same thing with labor through this. His essentially attack on labor, when labor has been very loyal to Clinton. Even when Clinton pushed through NAFTA back in his first administration, most of labor ultimately ended up staying with him. So I think, again, Clinton is showing his colors on this, and we have to keep this in mind. One of the things that I remember when I was working at the AFL-CIO, Laura, that irritated me was that when Bill Clinton would show up, many of these leaders would salivate. And I was saying, why are people so excited about this guy? What has he actually done for us? I don't want him to talk about feeling our pain. What has he done? And I think that this incident in Arkansas, this set of incidents, it was a slap in the face to labor.
All right, so moving away from what was going on the Democratic side, on the Republican side, did outsiders, upstarts, Tea Partiers have any greater degree of success, or as great a degree of success, sending a message of revolt, Bill?
From what I'm able to ascertain, the Tea Party's effect last night, it was very uneven. Winning some, losing some. In Northern Virginia, they didn't get anything. In Nevada, of course, their principal candidate won the Republican primary. I think that the Tea Party phenomena is going to be around for a while unless they are decisively defeated in November. But my deeper feeling, Laura, is that what we're seeing is a further fragmentation of the two-party system, that the Republicans are hardening. They're solidifying around a hard right view. The Democrats, on the other hand, I believe are fragmenting.
Well, let me ask you about that and about the kind of post-party perspective on all this. Some interesting language coming out of some of those running on the Republican side. Here's a clip from Carly Fiorina, running in the Senate race in the primary in California, eager to try to take on Barbara Boxer, the Democratic incumbent. Here's how she's casting herself, kind of as the voice of the poor and unemployed. Take a look.
For 3 decades in Congress, Boxer has personified the entrenched, stale arrogance of someone who has long forgotten that here in America, the people rule, not the government. Nearly 2.5 million Californians are out of work, many of them for over 6 months. Hundreds of thousands more have simply quit looking for work. There are boarded up storefronts all across California. There are food lines in our great San Joaquin Valley, and businesses, large and small, are leaving this state at record rates.
Now, there you have the former HP CEO, billionaire businesswoman, taking on the mantle of the voice of the people. You could pick apart the hypocrisies all day, but my question to you, Bill, is what's the significance of this attempt that somebody on the right, like Carly Fiorina, can cast or can create a right-wing position out of being concerned about unemployment? What does it mean about the field?
I think what we're seeing is an amazing amount of opportunism on the part of these candidates, but I think what we're also seeing is something that was evidenced in some elections in other places, like in Chile recently, where you have right-wing, very wealthy individuals who claim to be representing the interests of the people, that they claim that they made it. They present themselves essentially as saviors, and they at the same time use rhetoric, populist rhetoric, in order to try to unite with the poor. In Northern Virginia, in the elections, it's interesting, you hear these entrepreneurs talking about how they want to bring the entrepreneurial spirit to Washington because that's the way jobs can be created. It's it's not particularly logical, Laura, but I think what we have to understand is that they're using this, and they're using the savior message as a way of appealing to people who don't have any champions. Because unfortunately, mainstream Democrats are not out there speaking as firebrand fighters, firebrand populists that are challenging the wealthy and the privileged.
There's a vacuum there to be filled. Well, maybe we'll see the jobs bill fill it, and maybe EFCA, who knows? I'm not holding my breath. Bill Fletcher, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. There's a link to Bill's Center for Labor Renewal and his book, Solidarity Divided, at our website, GRITtv.org. Thanks.